at those levels, you know.
Well, hail, hail, the gang's all here. We didn't know how many we'd expect, especially with the snow and all that stuff. So we apologize to Tyler and Alex, but we're still going to enjoy it, and we always pass the word on. So so for those of you who don't know me, Rod, no. I'm Barb Dye, the president of Combo, and I think I'll just do a couple of announcements, and then what we'll do is we'll let Tyler talk for a little bit. If you got any questions, you can ask, and then we're going to switch Tyler out for Alex, and Alex is going to tell what he does with them music, okay? So we won't have any more general meetings per se until September. We'll be doing the 5 Points Jazz Festival on Saturday, May 19th. We'll have a booth there. If anybody wants to come help out at the booth, or if you want to get into the Jazz Festival free, talk to me, okay? And then we'll try to do some fun things during the summer like we usually do. I was thinking maybe we can get a tour of Levitt Pavilion.
Well, I'm sure we could.
Okay, backstage. We like to go to the backstage because you never get to see them. Might be time to do Red Rocks again too. The last time we were there, I didn't realize it's been like 8 or 9 years. Yeah, so and so doing those things because we never get to see those, so why not? You know. With that, I'm going to introduce Clark Hagan. I'll let him tell a little bit more about himself. He's our resident Russian.
That's not on. I'm tired of everybody looking at me funny.
Hats.
Yes, thank you. Hi, my name is Clark Hagan. I'm a Carl native, and I'm a board member here with Combo for the last 2 or 3 years. I did go out to Nashville for about 10 years. I'm a producer engineer, and I do work with some local talent every now and then, and that's about what I do. I'm always into music and always loving to hear some new stuff, and really excited to have Mr. Tyler Harvey here with us today, and he's going to talk to us about 303 music, so I was really intrigued about learning a little bit about what you've got going on, what you guys should start bringing fresh with this and helping promote the local acts and here stuff. So could you start and tell us a little bit about 303 music, when I guess a little history on it, and then go into what you got going?
Yeah, definitely. Hey everyone. Thanks to everyone at Combo for having me. I really appreciate it. But yeah, my name's Tyler. I'm not a native, unfortunately. I'm a transplant. But no, I'm originally from Maine, but I've never lived anywhere for more than 4 years of my life. Military brat, so kind of just can't sit still.
Yay.
I just hit 3 years here, and I'm already like, what's next? But 303 Magazine won't let me leave. I love Denver. I've been working with 303 Magazine for 2 years, and I took over their music desk 2 years ago, as well as their advertising, and then we've just kind of been really growing lately. Me and the managing editor, we work really, really hard. I don't know how familiar everyone is with 303, but we're a little different from some other publications. We're a local independent magazine. We don't have corporate ownership or anything like that, so we're a very small team that works really, really hard to grow the magazine and to give Denver what they want to read. And personally, with working with the music desk, one of my goals is to help promote the local music community. Obviously, there's so much to do in that essence, but I love it and it's a lot of fun. And one of the ways that we decided to do that was to make a record, which I guess I'll dive into in a minute. But yeah, we're just kind of growing. We're hosting our first ever music event coming up.
Well, what are the things that you do, like as far as you help promote bands and do you review music and so forth?
Yeah. All of the above, yes. Interview local bands, national artists that come through town. Anything Denver, we'll do, venue profiles, local artist profiles. In terms of what I do, I run the whole music desk. So I do all of that. I do write, I do go to shows, artist profiles, things like that, but I also manage a team of about 12 writers and another dozen photographers who do the same thing. And yeah.
Does your magazine come out monthly or?
So we're only online. We stopped printing about 5 or 6 years ago, back when we were a fashion publication. We've definitely changed a lot over the past couple of years, and now we're just all around lifestyle. But we started out 12 years ago as a fashion publication. We were in print, and then eventually, we just made the switch to digital, and now we're entirely online. But we publish about 10 articles a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. In terms of music, my desk, we publish 2 to 3 articles a day, depending on how many national artists want to announce shows. It drives me insane. It's like a rat race when someone announces a show between us, Westward, and the No to like try and get that announcement up as soon as possible. But yeah, so we'll cover like show announcements. We really try to focus on the local community as much as possible, though. I think that's been our overall focus, which hasn't been something in the past. But yeah, I really enjoy it.
That's exciting. That's exciting. So, and then as far as when yeah, I'm not really
Pass it back and forth like this. Does that make it work better? Yes, in the back. I see back there. That's great. So, like, as far as is there a genre of music that you guys really kind of tend to go towards, or are you guys open to all sorts of genres of music?
All genres, definitely. The way as I hire my team based on, first off, I ask them, are you interested in local music? And if their answer is no, okay. But because a lot of people move here, they're looking for writing jobs and they're actually not interested in local music. They just want to go to concerts for free. So kind of the way that I take my team on is it's just like, yeah, I want people that are passionate about the local scene. And not just that, but that want to write and get published. And I guess I don't ask anyone what their favorite genre of music is or who their favorite artist is. I guess my goal is to just hire good writers that are passionate to grow this magazine. And I personally, like, I love music, but there's so much of it that it's hard to keep up. So I love when I find those writers that are introducing me to new artists that aren't just signing up for Red Rock shows and wanting to review Fillmore shows or things like that, but they're actually going to Larimer Lounge and Bluebird and Globe Hall and some of these smaller venues. Yeah, there's no specific genre that we cover. I mostly encourage the local scene. And I'm pretty excited, actually. We're starting a series in May. I've been trying to launch this for a long time, but we're going to be doing local album reviews every single week. And I'm very, very excited about that. They could be old, they could be new, but I have 4 writers who are very excited to get on board with that. Now each one of them will be picking one a month to cover. So yeah, I guess there's no genre. It's just more so local. It's hard, of course. There's a huge local scene. Like, geez, slow down, guys. But congrats, by the way. That's awesome on the Westward win and everything. But yeah, I guess it's more so just a focus on local is what we go for. Yeah.
So how do you go about choosing like bands that you want to go see? Is that a word of mouth thing, or is that something that you might see advertised in Westward, or how does that go about?
Yeah. So in terms of local bands that I want to see, actually a lot of it comes down to the press releases. I do try to take the time and go through my press releases, and if I don't have time, I send them along to my writers and have them check it out. But we also have, we try to find ways to make it easy for the Denver music community to get into local music, and I end up utilizing those resources myself. Like, we have a Spotify account that has, like, if anyone emails us a song, they're like, hi, I'm a Denver EDM artist, we add it to our Denver EDM playlist. Same for rock, country. So it's these all-inclusive lists that cover every artist of every genre in Denver. And of course it's hard because not everyone's on Spotify, but it's nice because every once in a while I'll just be like, I'm really in the mood for some like pop music, and I'll just go to Denver's pop music and just start playing it, and every once in a while I'll come across this band and be like, wow, like, do they have any tour dates coming up? I really need to check them out. But yeah, and then of course, like, we don't like to play favorites, but we definitely do have artists that we try to spotlight because we see a lot of potential in them, and we want to see them grow and really get out there. Like Trev Rich, who's on our album and on our lineup, and oh, absolutely The Hollow, of course, yes. But Trev Rich has been on our radar for a long time, and watching him grow and succeed has been really great. Same thing with Citra, who also will be playing Westward, Wilderness. Like, there are certain bands that we like to cover because we know that they're on the cusp of breaking into the national scene. So we do definitely, it's not trying to play favorites, but we do try to give them that extra push. But then we have hundreds of other resources that we use for the smaller local acts. And actually that's something that we tried to do with this record, was we tried to find big local musicians like Grizz, Gregory Allen, Esme, and put them on a record with smaller local musicians like Dirty Few, Velveteers, things like that. And it's only on vinyl, and the reason for that is so that, sure, you can skip songs on vinyl, but it's kind of a process. It's not as easy as just pressing a button. So it's nice because people are actually kind of forced to listen to the entire album and discover a new artist. We have Esme and Wilderness back to back for a reason, so that someone who likes Esme is going to go straight into Wilderness and be like, wow, it's not the same, but it's something that they might get into. So yeah, we try to find different ways to incorporate smaller, larger artists and focus on the entire local scene. I don't know if that answered your question at all. It was a little bit of a tangent, but
That's good. That's good. Right. So just another thing too. Now, are you going to do this next year, or is this going to be something you do yearly, or go bi-yearly? And then, how do you go about picking bands for next year's volumes?
So let me tell you a little bit about the process for this, and actually I'll pass it around if anybody wants to take a look. There's a photo book that our photographers took. 303 photographers met up with all the artists. Each one comes with a Youth on Record download code for an album. Youth on Record, this album, 80% of all profits benefits Youth on Record, which we're very excited about. But this was something I never planned on doing, I mean, it's more of a passion project. It is a benefit for Youth on Record, so there's not much out of it for me, but I love it. But it's exciting because we wanted to incorporate as much of the local community as possible. Vinyl Me Please, although they're a national company, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with Vinyl Me Please, but they have about 30,000 national subscribers, and they do exclusive printings every month and ship them to the doors of their subscribers with cocktail pairings and exclusive art and things like that. And though they're national, they're here in Denver. And I knew this because I was a member of their club, and so I shot an email, and I was like, this probably won't happen, but if you guys are interested in tapping into the local community, I'd love to help you out. And they got back to me right away, and they're like, absolutely, let's do this. And I was
What's
like,
the name of them again?
Vinyl Me Please.
Vinyl Me Please.
They're really, really great. Their album last month was an Arctic Monkeys album, and then this upcoming month, I forget what it is, but it's supposed to be really good. But and of course I had to kind of preface this being like 303 Magazine, we're an independent publication, we don't have all this money, and I am incredibly thankful to Vinyl Me Please. They actually fronted all of the costs for this because they were so passionate. They went to Youth on Record when we told them what we were trying to do, and actually made personal donations, gave them every pressing they've ever done, and even some recording equipment and stuff, so I just thought that was super cool. They've been so helpful, and I think part of that might be because local record stores are not a fan of this club, so they're trying to tap into that community a little bit more. And when I did sit down with Twist and Shout, and I was like, hey, I really would love it if you guys would stock this on your shelves, and they're like, Vinyl Me Please, no. But I had to kind of, no, it'll be on their shelves, don't worry. But I had to be like, I spend more money at Twist and Shout than I do at Vinyl Me Please. Vinyl Me Please is one record a month. I buy more than I should, and it's totally different. It's a completely different thing, and they're now super supportive, and they actually did buy the record, and they're going to be selling it. We'll have it on shelves in Boulder and in Denver, so yeah, that's kind of how it started. I never thought it was going to happen, and now I'm excited, but the focus was we wanted to be as Denver as possible, so John Vogel, who had actually designed an art print for a Vinyl Me Please pressing in the past, we obviously thought of him because of his concert prints. If you're not familiar with John Vogel, he did the Denver Pale Ale can with Great Divide last year, the really pretty one with the bear, beautiful colors like that. He was totally psyched about it, on board, did this artwork for us, and yeah, I guess that's it. All of our team of photographers took the photos in the books. It'll come out on May 17th, and then yes, we will continue it into next year. In terms of the selection, we obviously know a lot about the local music scene. Not enough, there's never enough, but we know a lot about the local music scene, and Vinyl Me Please at the time was new, and they really didn't know much about the Denver music scene. They were familiar with Kitty Crimes and Tennis, because they had done a Tennis as one of their monthly albums in the past. So what we did is I actually had my entire team of writers spend weeks going through those playlists that we have and their own personal preferences, and we actually narrowed it down to about 60 local musicians that we were considering. Then I personally cut it down to 30, mostly based on genre, because we wanted this to be a good mix of genres. And then we sent that list to Vinyl Me Please. They took a couple weeks with their team, got the kind of unbiased perspective, and sent back the 12 tracks that we were like, this is what we'd like to see. And things changed because, Grizz got on board, and that was kind of like, we need Grizz on this. We'd like to sell it, So We got Grizz on board, and Flowbots actually recorded an exclusive track for the album. You can't listen to it anywhere but this record, and a couple radio stations that might be playing it in the near future. But yeah, that's it. So we just tried to kind of make it as Colorado as possible. Now we're releasing it in May, and we have 4 or 5 of the musicians on the record performing at the event. And then we'll get the ball rolling for Volume 2. But we don't know how soon we want to move on to Volume 2 because, like, for example, Sir Els doesn't live here anymore, and he's on our record. He moved to LA during the whole process, and my assistant who's printed on the back of the record is not my assistant anymore. So it's kind of like, I think I need to wait a little bit longer before I move forward with Volume 2, and also see what's a little bit more up and coming. This is something I've been working on for almost a year now. So I think we'll probably wait a while before we start debating Volume 2, see what's going on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, now this is something I'm just going to pick up from what you said a little bit earlier, and this is a question I have for you. Since you're seeing a lot of press releases from local acts and from national acts and so forth, wow, look at that. That's amazing. Here's a question I have for you is what are the things that you see that you said bands are about on the cusp of going somewhere and doing something. What are the things that you see that those bands are doing that these other bands need to know about, that they need to be so they can get on the cusp?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times here in our industry here, our local industry anyways, is that we don't really have something to look at as far as an example of how to move forward in some ways. So.
Totally. Spencer, no, but seriously, Spencer, you're great at this. So definitely send press releases and know how to send a press release. Like, wow, if I get an email and I get hundreds of emails a day, and if I open it and I don't see the word Denver or Colorado, honestly, I delete it. So if you're a local artist and you're sending to a local publication, you need to make sure that you're saying you're Denver, that you're Colorado, or something like that. Because if I open a message and it's like, I'm coming through Denver or something like that, nope, move along. And if it's an artist that sure, we're covering that show and we want to interview them, I'll send it to the appropriate writer. But yeah, make sure you know how to send a press release. Don't be annoying about it either. Do not Facebook message me. Do not, like, Spencer, you were really cool about it. I'm not putting you on blast here. Because Spencer actually, he added me on Facebook and then started, like, supporting us and sharing our content and like, RSVPing to our events and, like, stuff like that. Like, we saw mutual support there, so that was awesome. But some people will just, like, send me Facebook messages and be like, here's my song. And I'm just like, I'm not going to listen to this. I'm really busy. I don't know anything about you. And you need to include information about yourself. Like, make it easy. Why do we want to write about you? What's your story? So many times people are just literally send an email and it's like, here's my song. And I just ignore it. So, and when my writers pitch stories to me, I need them to explain to me why I want this published on the magazine. So you need to have a story. You need to make sure that you're really branding yourself well too. Especially if what I've noticed with the Denver music scene is there are bands that really try, and there are bands that are just kind of doing it, which is fine. That's not a big deal at all. But you have to kind of figure out what you want to. Because sure, we do cover some bands that I've never received a press release from. They just sound good and they're cool. But if you're really trying to grow, I think you need to stay on top of that. Find ways to grow your social media, definitely. I run the social media platforms for 303 on Instagram, and there's so many different apps and things that you can get to grow your followers, and regramming the right people and things like that. Definitely look into good social, and then just kick ass, play a lot of shows. Like get into Westford Music Showcase and 303 Music Fest and stuff like that. Those are definitely the best ways to do it. Try, just show that you're trying and that it's something that you want. I think that's kind of the biggest thing. We actually, something not to do, so we did 303 awards like we do every year, and we expanded them this year. Last year we only did like best artist, best album, and that was it. And this year I was like, I don't want to be like Westward's awards. Sorry, I love it. Westward's great, but I found one and it was like best band fronted by an attorney, and I was just like, this is too much. So we did try to expand it, and we learned our lesson too, because we did exclude like the funk genre and things like that. And so next year, we'll come back and we'll know. But this year we expanded it, and best up and coming artist was given to a hip hop artist who didn't respond to any of our emails or anything. And then when he won it, we announced he won it, he put a video on Twitter pretty much saying like, F this award. I've been selling out venues across the nation. Like, don't tell me I'm up and coming. And I'm not even from Denver. I just live in Denver. So don't tell me I'm a local artist. Like, oh man, so we took the award and gave it to the runner-up, who was Wilderness, who I love Wilderness, and I was psyched. But it was just like things not to do because he's blacklisted. Like, you know, if there's ever anything important that he's involved in that we need to write about, we're going to write it. But if he sends us a song, you're not local.
Did you follow up to find
local.
out if he really does?
His manager actually emailed us the next day asking when he could pick up the award and mentioning how excited they were about it. It was a good day. But yeah, just be nice to local publications. Like, to be quite frank with you, we're busy. We're very busy. Like, local publications don't get a ton of support financially. It's so unfortunate what's going on with the Denver Post right now, as I'm sure everyone's aware of. But we're local and independent. The content that we're putting out, we are literally like really working hard to make that happen. So make sure you're supporting your local publications, and we see that. We actually see that happening. And just follow up. Don't feel like don't spam us. I hate when someone's like, hey, can you cover this show? 2 days later, just following up. 2 days later, just following up. And then I get an email from a writer like, hey, I just got a Facebook message from someone about the show. And I'm like, we are not covering the show. But like, you know, you release a single, send an email. You release another single, send an email. We try our best to look at all of this and to give everyone the attention. And if anyone hasn't seen it, we do a monthly series at the beginning of every month. And it's essentially 5 local musicians to check out, 5 new music videos by local musicians to check out, and 5 new songs by local musicians to check out. And it's just a great resource. We put it out once a month. We turn them all into playlists so you can listen to them. And that's one of our goals, is to try and make these resources for people to get into Denver music. But yeah, I mean, we may not respond to your email, but we're seeing it, I promise. I just went to a panel, and a Rolling Stone writer was on there. And I don't know if anyone knows Rue Johnson, but she was also on it. And she talked about how she wants to write for the Fader, and that's something she's always wanted to do, is write for Fader. So every month she sends them an article idea, and they never get back to her. And a couple months ago, she got an email back, and it just said no, and that was it. And she was psyched. She was so psyched. She was like, the Fader opened my email, and they now know who I am. And that's a step in the right direction. And now every month she still continues to send them emails. And persistence. Be persistent about things. Like, we may not email you back, but make it happen.
She has a question.
I got a question.
Sure,
No worries. So you mentioned something like apps to help like grow like social media followers.
Yeah.
I know there's like a huge debate on, you know, how can you do it organically, and are there apps out there that could help it organically? Because I know that Instagram is like gonna crack down on like these fake followers.
Yeah.
So I was just like wondering what it is that you recommend or that you're using. Or
There's one app in particular that's incredible. It's called Followers Plus.
Okay.
And this is going to sound horrible, but I do run marketing and advertising for the magazine as well, so I have to think in this mindset. But
right.
it does cost like $1.99 a month or $10 for the full year,
Mm-hmm.
but you can manage multiple accounts. And it essentially shows you who's not following you back, which... Sorry, but we unfollow those people because we want to make room to follow more people and have them follow us back. And it's a really great app. You can actually see who's following you and who's never liked a single one of your posts. Like your fake followers, I guess you can say. They're probably spam accounts, so you can unfollow them. It's just a matter of like we try to not make our followers up to like into the thousands, so you can see who's actually engaging with your posts, who's not engaging with your posts. Things like that. It's a pretty cool app, and that's one of the things we use.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then engage with a lot of people. We actually, if you comment on people's posts, like similar accounts, I want to say like 25% of the people will follow you. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
There's an app called Hootsuite too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we tried this thing out. We did like a 3-day trial of Social Runner, and like they kind of like, you know, pitched it as like, we have like actual people like using like, you know, your account and like going out and finding like all of these like, you know, different accounts based on what you would really like your Instagram to be like or who you'd like to follow. And that's totally fake. It's definitely not real people.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
definitely.
Hootsuite is nice because you can structure what your posts are and put them out on various platforms.
Oh,
so
okay.
you could essentially backlog an entire week's worth of social media posts and have them be different posts for Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Write the content and then set up like a post date so that it'll post it. So on Sunday, you take a bunch of pictures of everything that you did this week, and you're like, I'm going to post this to Twitter, I'm going to post this to Facebook, I'm going to post this to Instagram. Write all of the content for it, put in all the tags and all the hashtags and tag whatever bands you saw, and then you just hit send, and it will do it for you. Now you'll have to keep up on the what Tyler's talking about, engagement.
The engagement, yeah.
Army Twitter.
If you're only using your account to promote yourself, you're not going to see much of a return. That's kind of, I guess, what we're trying to say. And try to post every day if you can. Like it can be hard to keep up with that, but that is actually how you grow your following. And then make sure you're using the hashtags too, of course. But yeah, those are the best ways that we use to grow our Instagram accounts at least. I can't tell you much about Facebook. I don't do much there. But and if it's not a business account, make sure it's a business account so you can. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool, sweet. One thing on hashtags too, there's a great site called hashtagify.me.
Okay,
and that'll help
you can find trending hashtags.
Trending hashtags, but also you can wonder. Yeah, because you can look at hashtags too, and it'll show you how popular it is, and then what the other top 10 hashtags that are associated with that are.
Great.
So then you're seeing, like, if I'm using a hashtag, is it actually reaching the right people?
Like, how many times can I use hashtag don't
One of our buddies out in LA wrote a pilot for something, and he did an Instagram post about it and did hashtag pilot, and then he followed up with it saying, "It's incredible how many airline pilots clicked on this."
Great.
So he could have used that,
Right, and
that
it's
resource.
Yeah, hashtagify.me.
Great, this is great. I'm now feeling so much better about social
I
media.
had no idea so
You
many
can
pilots were
shoot me an
changing
email too. Grab my card after this.
Yeah,
I want to add real quick,
Yeah.
when you say about press releases, we've talked about doing a press release workshop.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Wernick, who's a banjo player, said he would love to teach people how to do press releases. But one thing that drives me nuts with Combo is people sending me their adorable little posters and flyers.
Yeah.
That is not a press release. And I'm not going to sit there and retype all that information, i.e. the Westward Showcase thing. Can you imagine how long that would have taken me to retype that thing?
Yeah, that's frustrating. And I feel that like when Denver Film Festival releases their lineup, it's never in our AP style format, so we actually have to reformat the entire lineup and paste it.
That is not a press release.
Awesome. Well, I guess a couple good things I got off you was details in your press release. It's like, hey, yo, here's Clark, here's my song. Call me if you like it. Oh, by the way, I am a male. I'm 51. I'm right. That's interesting. Everybody,
Not a dating profile.
I gotta laugh at that because it almost just seemed like that was really stupid that people would not do that.
But they do it.
They do that. I was just surprised that you said. I was like, oh wow, that seems really dumb that you don't tell them about what you are, what genre you are, what am I doing? I mean, because that'd be like if I was an artist and I cut a reggae song, I cut a country song, I did a metal song, and then I did a polka instrumental, and I send those to you, and you go, well, what direction? I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. Which one you like, and that'll be me, okay? Like, polka, okay, I'm
But
in.
that's what you do. That's what I'm talking about with the email. If you are an artist that's writing like every different genre, then you send an email and it's like, I'm a Denver artist who has made a song in every genre you can think of. Make that your headline, bold it at the top, because that's the angle we're going to take. Like what you were talking about earlier, if you sent me a press release about the event and not many details, I would probably look over it. But the fact that you're drumming for like 18 hours, that should be 80 hours, sorry. That should be the first thing in the press release, because that's what's going to catch our attention and that's what we're going to want to write about. Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't know if I have time for all this, man. I think I need. It seems like nowadays you need a team for your band. I mean, because listen, you taking it all upon yourself to have to do everything. How do you have the time then to write the hit song? I have the time to figure out how to promote myself. I
Also
have time to,
at work.
so, which is great. So, man, does anybody else have any other questions, perhaps?
So, I know from personal experience, like when I was looking you up because we were trying to get connected with 303 Magazine. It's been a thing of ours in Westward. And so, I mean, we do our homework, and I was like, so 303's music editor is not from Colorado. What
Me!
You know what I mean? So like, and so for me, it's like, what kind of flack do you get from that, and then how have you seen that kind of transpire? Because I mean, again, we've been following you for a while, and seeing the content that you put out. Something that worries me as a band who's trying to get up onto the cusp is the initial instinct is you would just latch on to what's hot right now, right? Instead of the growing Denver community music scene is absolutely on fire with a lot of these artists who are on the ground level but only need that little bit to absolutely skyrocket. So what has that experience been like for you and that transition into like now you've been working with the magazine for a while?
So my degree is in religion. Let me just go ahead and say that. That was an accident, was not planned. I never thought I was going to be a music editor. Actually, my experience is more in the advertising field. The music editor just kind of fell on me because I love music. To be quite honest, it is something that I have not gotten much kickback from it, but it is something that I personally try to acknowledge, I guess you can say. This is the first panel I've ever spoken on, by the way, so thank you very much. But I was featured on a podcast last week, Comfortably Excluded. It's great, check it out. But something that I mentioned on there, and one of the questions I was asked is, what do you want to see change in the Denver music community? And my answer was, I want to see more transplants getting involved with the local music scene, because we have a huge transplant population here. And don't get me wrong, I moved here from Richmond, and I'm like, I have these Richmond bands, these DC bands that I want to represent and tell everyone about, and I still do that. But there's a community here that we need to support. So no, I'm not the most knowledgeable person about this community. Like, I will absolutely admit that. But I do my best to try and learn as much as I can, to pay as much attention to it as I can. Last year at UMS, I spent like 28 hours total at UMS. I saw like 30-something bands. And it's just, I do go out and try to like discover these local artists. I always show up for the opener if it's local and I'm at a national show. And I try to also hire writers. Like, we do have a lot of transplant writers, but I do have like a backbone of native writers. Like my head writer, Corey Hazel, is a native. He's also in the music community, Serval. He makes really great pop music. And he just really knows a lot about this community. He was actually the one that I promoted to the talent buyer for 303 Music Fest, because I wanted someone that was a native to help me decide on who we were going to book. And it wasn't just that, but also we have 5 303 award winners this year performing, so we kind of got the community involved, like Westward does, in picking our selection. But in terms of writing, it just kind of comes down to like those releases. Like I like to think of it as I do have like an outside perspective. Sure, I did come in and I know who's hot and like who's growing and things like that, and we do want to write about those people. But I also, like, honestly, I didn't know who Kitty Crimes was until about a year ago. And I love her, and she's great, and we love writing about her, and it's more so getting people on our radar to be talked about. But we try to give as much, like I said, that article that we do once a month with the local musicians, it's 15 different local artists, and usually, we started that series as Denver Underground. That was the title of the series. It did not pick up, no one was reading it, so we actually had to change the title, and it's just like new local music in April to check out or something like that. And it does better now, but those, I specifically tell my writer, I want these to be low-key people, like I don't even want to, I've heard of them, but you still need to listen to them and make sure that there's someone we want to write about at the same time. Yeah, that's it. I guess I do not get kickback. We have seen a lot of kickback on my writer's parts. I had a writer, Drew, who was also from Maine. That's not why I hired her, but she had a creative writing degree, and she was a great writer, and she had just moved here, and she was like, I love local music, and I want to dive into the scene. And she's the one who started that series for us. And I gave it to her because of the outside perspective, because she didn't know who to write about. So it was kind of like she was actually checking out music, and then she would make playlists, and we would listen to them in our staff meetings, and the entire music desk would be like, we like this one, we want to feature this one, we want to feature this. And the first article that came out, I think I posted it to like the Denver music scene Facebook group, and someone was like, this is a really great idea, it just sucks it's being written by a transplant. And I'm just like,
I swear to God, I think that was me.
it was, it probably was. That's her.
I swear to God.
She's the sweetest girl too.
But that was my thing. It was like,
Yeah.
it was the challenge of like,
Mhm.
because like the playlist was like, you know, Wilderness and all these bands
Was it?
that like from a Denver music
Mhm.
participant, the people that have been in the spotlight
Gotcha.
for, you know, ages. So
Right,
it was
right.
like, okay, great. So there's another publication that is supporting the same
The
group
same
of people.
stuff,
That it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
so when does the
Right.
the smaller guy get the
Right.
chance to?
Well, keep up with it.
Yeah,
If you
well-
haven't been keeping up with it, it's like we feature different artists every single
Totally,
time.
yeah.
So yeah, and that is a problem that I do face, is knowing who's not big like that. And at the time, I don't even think I knew who Wilderness was, to be quite frank. But yeah, like there's a lot of history in Denver, like tennis's history in Denver.
Yeah.
Didn't know about that for a little bit. So
Aren't they transplants too? Like are they natives here?
they are, but they got featured in a Westward interview where they said some comments about the Denver music community. And I didn't know about this, and I was actually about to write about tennis, and my manager was like, whoa, step back. So we come into these hurdles, it does happen, but honestly, I just try to see it as like, I'm doing my best. I like to think that it is a fact that 303 Magazine puts out more local music coverage than any publication in Denver, and we want to strive to continue to do that. Westward has picked it up a little bit lately. I ran into Kyle Harris last week, and I was like, props, good for you. I'm happy because honestly, like, I don't want to compete with Westward. I want to see them write about local music, and like, I want to
They
be...
used to be huge.
Mhm.
What?
Oh yeah.
Huge, and then
Right.
10, 12 years ago.
So,
what I've
so
heard.
what does that competition then look like for you? Because I know
Yeah.
that there's also a lot of other independent publications, like Rooster,
Yeah.
for example, is like a great local
Oh,
support.
yeah.
So, but they're also print. So like,
Mhm.
what does that competition? Like, I don't know if
Right,
competition is the word, but like, what does that look like for you?
So-
Stepping on toes, and like, you do this, and you
Mhm.
do this kind of thing.
So honestly, I don't, and people like Birdie and things like that and Rooster, we don't really necessarily consider them competition. It's more of just like, they're different. We have different voices and different styles, so we like to think that we'd rather support each other than compete with each other. Westward's a competitor. They have a larger reach and demographic. They've been around and bigger, and they're still in print. So Westward is definitely, they have Westward Music Showcase and these big events. This is our first ever music event. For a while there, the No at Denver Post was looking like it, which I don't want to get started there. Sorry, the Denver Post 303 magazine, the No. But they were looking like they were going to compete for a while, but with everything going on at Denver Post, Dylan Owens is no longer running that. Sucks. I feel really bad for those guys. But in terms of competition, we see it more as like, we want to see, it gets frustrating to me when I see like Westward cover like a national musician's death or something, or like R. Kelly like had a baby or something. I'm just kind of like, why are you covering this? Isn't for you. This is what you should be covering. That's when I get frustrated when in terms of competition. I'd rather than see something completely different come out, but I want to support the local music community, and I want to support them. So if other publications are writing about them, great. We just came out with an article, and it was on local synthesizers. Like Denver's local synthesizer community is unstoppable. I think that was the headline. And a previous writer for another publication hit us up and tried to say that we plagiarized them. But most of the article was quotes. That other article was written like a year and a half ago. We interviewed like completely different musicians too. It was just, they were both about local synthesis. That's all it was. And it was just one of those things where like he attacked the writer and was just like, because in her, she likes K-pop, and I'm going to stand by that. Like, if my writer likes K-pop, great. I don't know anything about it. I actually want to know more. She's about to work on an article to see if there's a local community for K-pop, and I'm excited. I think that's cool. But in her bio, it says she likes K-pop, and she got attacked for that. And this writer was just like, yeah, Like, who do you think would write this better? Someone who likes mediocre, like, Japanese, which is not Japanese, pop music, or someone who likes, or who's friends with all of these people? And I was like, actually, someone who's not friends with all of these people is probably going to write it better, because that's an unbiased perspective. And quite frankly, if you're friends with all of these people, you should support them being written about in another publication a year and a half later, too. So it was just one of those things where it's like, we don't like to see those things. We'd rather, there are so many times where I've written an article and 2 days later Westword or Denver Post have written the same exact article, and it's just like, you gotta brush it off, because that's the way it is. If they're not plagiarizing you, there's nothing you can do about it. Concepts, article ideas, these are all things that we can all write about. And we try to think that we don't live in this little bubble where we're the only people that can write about it. So I encourage Westword's local music coverage. I love that they book local music for their showcase. My favorite local festival is not I love 303 Music Fest, but UMS. I love UMS so much. It's like I spend so much time there every year, and that's that's what I want to see Denver doing more too, is doing that. And yeah, like I am a transplant, but I wish transplants would help more, support the community more. This girl taking a video back there. She came with me to UMS last year. She's a transplant. Discovered some awesome local things. Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
So great.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, a couple of quick questions and we'll take a break.
No, okay, we're all good. No. That is some great. Well, look, Tyler, I really appreciate you coming and talking to us, because I think you dropped some great points that were really valuable for a lot of people who are trying to, get their career going and everything like that. And I'm glad you two were able to meet face to face. Really entertaining.
We're gonna arm wrestle.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, all right. We'll take a little break now. Take about 10 minutes, and I have some pop or some water there, and then we'll get on with Mr. Alex Tights next. I'm really excited about what he's got to have to say. All right, then. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.